All right, so you ready to like dive into this whole Rachel Reeves thing?
Oh yeah, let's do
Like
it.
this securenomics thing?
Yeah,
It's a lot, especially after that budget. I mean,
definitely a lot to unpack.
yeah, for sure.
It's wild, right?
Yeah, so first, like who is this Rachel Reeves even?
Okay, so imagine like this political scene straight out of House of Cards.
Okay.
But like with tea and biscuits instead of all the
Yeah.
like drama and stuff.
Right, right.
Rachel Reeves is like that character who walks in and everyone's like underestimating her, and then boom, she's the chancellor,
Wow, okay.
calling all the shots.
And she's not just any chancellor.
Right. No, not at all.
She made history.
Yeah. Big time first woman to hold that title in like 708 years.
Whoa.
That's older than some castles.
Wow.
So yeah, she was shadow chancellor back in 2021 and then bam, chancellor in 24.
That's crazy.
Meteoric rise. And now she's turning heads with this whole securenomics approach.
So securenomics, what is that like? Is that something out of Star Trek or what?
It kind of sounds like that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Think of it like this. It's a direct response to all the cracks we've been seeing with globalization.
Mhm.
All those promises of free trade and trickle-down economics.
Yeah.
It hasn't really worked out for everyone, has it?
Right.
So Reeves is saying, hold on, let's rethink this whole thing.
Okay.
She's pushing for more government investment, but not just like throwing money around,
Yeah.
targeted spending on things like infrastructure, green energy, and education. Basically building a more stable foundation for the economy to grow.
So less like let the market run wild and more let's like nudge things in the right direction.
Exactly.
Really interesting.
Yeah, it's a shift away from that whole tax cuts and deregulation playbook that's been dominating for decades.
So it's almost like a global trend, right?
Totally.
I mean, even Biden's doing similar things in the U.S.
Yeah, like the Inflation Reduction Act. It's
Yeah.
like the world is waking up and realizing that maybe governments need to play a more active role in the economy, Especially with things like climate change.
Right, and keeping things from like
Ah.
completely going off the rails.
Exactly.
So Reeves is right in the middle of all this, leading the charge in the UK.
She is.
But it hasn't all been smooth sailing, has it?
Not exactly.
That July spending review had everyone talking.
Oh, yeah. That was a curveball.
Big time.
She went in swinging, axing winter fuel payments for some pensioners, canceling infrastructure projects.
Really?
Tough decisions. Definitely ruffled some feathers.
I bet.
Especially with Jeremy Hunt calling her out on the state of public finances.
Yeah. And then there was that whole budget leak thing.
Oh, yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah, let's just say the Speaker of the House wasn't sending her a thank you card.
No, I bet not.
Not at all.
Definitely a misstep.
Yeah.
But then came the October budget.
Oh, boy.
And that's when things got really interesting.
For sure.
40 billion pounds in tax rises.
Unprecedented.
The biggest since 1993.
Yeah, you can't just brush that off.
No, you can't.
It was seismic. Everyone felt it. Employers facing higher national insurance contributions. Farmers dealing with those inheritance tax changes.
Really? Why?
Even the bus fare went up.
No way.
Yeah, the Office for Budget Responsibility basically said, get ready, folks. The tax burden is about to hit a record high.
Wow. So she's really making a statement.
Oh, yeah.
I bet Rishi Sunak had some thoughts on that.
You bet he wasn't exactly singing her praises.
Yeah.
Even Ed Davey, who's usually more middle of the road, had a mixed bag of reactions. Praising some bits, criticizing others. It's a bold move, no doubt.
Yeah.
And one that will have long-term consequences.
For better or worse.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got this historical appointment, a controversial spending review, a budget that sent shockwaves.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's like a political thriller in real time.
It really is.
But let's bring it back to securenomics.
Okay.
How do all these pieces fit together?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like she's playing 4D chess, trying to orchestrate this long-term plan while putting out fires and dodging political landmines.
So where does this 7.3 billion pound national wealth fund fit into all of this?
Oh, yes.
Sounds like a big gamble.
It is a really fascinating one.
Yeah.
She's basically saying, look, we can't just rely on private companies to do what's best for the country,
Okay.
especially when it comes to things like decarbonizing heavy industry.
Right.
So she's using this fund to incentivize private investment, hoping to jumpstart a green industrial revolution.
So it's a calculated risk, a way to leverage government funds to drive change where the private sector might be dragging its feet.
Exactly. And that's securenomics in a nutshell. Recognizing that sometimes you need a bit of a little nudge from the government to get things moving in the right direction.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it.
Think-
It's definitely different
Is
than
it?
what we're used to.
That's for sure. Yeah, it's a high wire act for sure.
Yeah.
And the stakes are incredibly high.
Right.
But, if she pulls this off, It could have a ripple effect way beyond the UK.
You think securonomics could go global?
I think it's possible.
I mean, it already seems to be like echoing what's happening in the U.S.
Yeah.
and elsewhere.
It's like a trend.
Right.
Think about it. If Reeves can actually show that this approach works,
Yeah.
that it creates a more stable, equitable, and sustainable economy, other countries might start taking notice.
I guess that makes sense.
Especially those struggling with the same issues we are, you know.
Like inequality, climate change.
Exactly. All that stuff.
Like a proof of concept.
Kind of, yeah.
Like a test case for a new way of doing things.
Exactly. And if it catches on, it could fundamentally change how we think about the role of government in the 21st century.
Wow. That's a big thought.
It is.
Okay, so let's say securonomics does become like the new economic gospel.
Okay.
What does that world look like?
Well, imagine a world where governments aren't just referees in the economic game anymore,
Okay.
but they're actually players working to level the playing field, making sure everyone has a chance to succeed.
So more investment in like public services, a stronger safety net, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Universal, healthcare, affordable, housing-free education.
Wow.
Things that were considered radical a few decades ago might become the norm.
And what about the environment?
Yeah, that's a big one.
Reeves has made it clear that climate change is a top priority.
Right. So in this securonomics world, sustainability wouldn't be an afterthought.
Okay.
It would be baked into every economic decision. Governments would be leading the charge on switching to renewable energy, investing in green infrastructure, holding corporations accountable for their environmental impact.
It all sounds pretty utopian.
It does a bit, doesn't it?
But realistically, wouldn't there be pushback?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we're talking about like a major shift in power dynamics.
For sure. There would be winners and losers, no doubt.
Right.
Big corporations that have been profiting off the status quo, they wouldn't be happy about giving up their power and influence.
And what about people who say that more government intervention will stifle innovation and economic growth?
That's a valid point.
Yeah.
And one that Reeves needs to address.
Right.
The key is finding the right balance between regulation and letting the market do its thing. It's not about creating a command and control economy,
Okay.
but about setting clear rules and incentives that encourage businesses to act in the best interests of society.
So it's a tightrope walk.
Yeah, it is.
Too much intervention, you risk stifling growth.
Right.
Too little, and you end up with the same problems.
Exactly. And navigating that complexity is what will make or break securonomics.
Okay, let's look at an example.
Sure.
How does this National Wealth Fund actually work in practice?
Think of it like a giant venture capital fund.
Okay.
But instead of chasing profits, it's chasing solutions to big problems, like climate change.
Right.
Reeves is using that $7.3 billion to attract private investors,
Okay.
saying, hey, let's team up and make the UK a global leader in green technology.
So it's not just about throwing money at the problem. It's about leveraging those funds strategically
Exactly.
to create new industries and innovation.
Right. It's like planting seeds.
Right.
The government provides the initial investment, the fertilizer, if you will. And then the private sector comes in and helps those seeds grow into a thriving green economy.
But isn't that risky?
Of course, there's always a risk, but doing nothing is even riskier.
That's true.
We're at a crossroads. We need bold solutions.
Right.
Securonomics might not be the perfect answer,
Yeah.
but it's at least an attempt to find a new path
Okay.
to create a more secure and sustainable future.
Okay. I'm starting to see the bigger picture here.
Good.
It's not just about tweaks and adjustments. It's about rethinking our relationship with the economy, with government, with each other.
It's a paradigm shift, and whether we like it or not, we're living through it right now.
So what does all this securonomics talk actually mean for everyday people?
That's the question that matters most, right?
Yeah.
It's easy to get lost in the big ideas,
Right.
but ultimately it's about how those ideas translate into real benefits for people.
So less theory, more reality.
Exactly.
What can people expect?
Well, for starters, if securonomics works as intended,
Yeah.
we could see a significant increase in investment in public services like education, healthcare, and transportation.
Okay, but how do we pay for all of that?
That's the tough part.
Especially with the tax burden already at a record high.
Right, that's the rub.
Yeah.
Reeves is betting that by investing in the future, by creating a more productive and equitable economy, will generate more wealth and tax revenue in the long run.
So it's the long game.
It's...
Tighten our belts now so we can reap the rewards later.
Exactly, but that requires trust.
Trust in the government?
Trust that the government will use those funds wisely,
Right.
that the benefits will reach everyone,
Yeah.
that the long-term gains will outweigh the short-term pain.
And that's where the skepticism comes in.
Of course.
People have been burned before
They have.
by promises of economic prosperity that never materialized.
Right, and that's why Reeves needs to be transparent about her plans.
Yeah.
Communicate clearly with the public.
Right.
And show that she's not just talking the talk, but walking the walk.
So it's a huge gamble.
It is both politically and economically.
But if she pulls it off.
It could be a game changer.
Yeah.
Securonomics could be the defining economic philosophy of the 21st century.
Wow.
Or it could fizzle out another failed experiment in a long line of economic theories.
Right.
Only time will tell.
Well, this has been really insightful.
Glad to hear it.
I feel like I understand Securonomics a lot better now.
Good.
And its potential implications.
It's complicated stuff.
Yeah. But before we get too carried away with the big ideas,
Okay.
I want to bring you back down to earth for a minute.
Sounds good. How do you want to do that?
I'm curious about the human side of all of this.
Okay.
We've talked about the economics and the politics.
Yeah.
But what about the social and cultural impact of Securonomics? How might it change how we live, work, and interact with each other?
That's a fascinating question.
Yeah?
And one that's often overlooked when we talk about economics.
Right.
Economics isn't just about numbers and graphs.
Yeah.
It's about people's lives, their hopes, their dreams, their struggles.
Exactly. So how might Securonomics impact those lives?
Well, if it's successful in creating a more stable and equitable society, we could see some positive social changes.
Like what?
For example, we might see a decrease in crime and poverty
Okay.
as people have more opportunities to succeed.
And what about things like social mobility and equality?
Yeah.
Could Securonomics help level the playing field
That's the goal.
and create a more just society?
By investing in education, healthcare, and other social programs, Reeves is hoping to create a society where everyone has a fair shot,
Okay.
regardless of their background.
So it's about creating a more inclusive and compassionate society
Yes.
where everyone feels valued and supported.
Precisely. And that's not just good for individuals.
Right.
It's good for society as a whole.
Makes sense.
The society that takes care of its most vulnerable members is a stronger and more resilient society.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential benefits of Securonomics,
Right.
both in terms of economic growth and social progress.
Yeah.
But let's not shy away from the potential downsides.
Oh, okay.
What are some of the risks and challenges associated with this approach?
Well, as I mentioned, one of the biggest risks is that it could lead to higher taxes and more government regulation,
Okay.
which some people argue could stifle innovation and economic growth.
Yeah, it's that classic debate
It is.
between government intervention and free markets.
Exactly. And finding the right balance is crucial.
Mm,
Too much government intervention and you risk creating a bureaucratic nightmare.
right,
Too little and you end up with the same problems.
right. Inequality, instability, environmental degradation.
Exactly.
Another concern is that Securonomics could lead to a more protectionist global economy,
Mm-hmm.
with countries putting up trade barriers and focusing on domestic production.
That's definitely something to watch out for.
Yeah.
After all, Securonomics is partly about creating more resilient national economies,
Yeah.
which could lead to a temptation to turn inward and disengage from the global economy.
And that could have negative consequences for everyone.
It could less trade, less cooperation, more conflict.
Yeah, so it's a balancing act.
It is.
Reeves needs to find a way to promote national economic security without undermining global cooperation
Right.
and interdependence.
Exactly.
Okay, so it sounds like Securonomics is a bit of a double-edged sword.
In a way, yes.
It has the potential to create a more stable, equitable, and sustainable world,
Yeah.
but it also comes with risks and challenges
Sure.
that need to be carefully managed.
Absolutely. It's not a silver bullet,
Okay,
but it's a bold experiment and one that's worth watching closely.
I completely agree. This whole Securonomics thing,
Yeah.
it's like a fascinating social experiment unfolding right before our eyes.
It really is.
It has the potential to reshape not just the economy, but our society, our values, even our sense of who we are.
It's a reminder that economics isn't just about numbers and graphs. It's about people, about choices, about creating the kind of world we want to live in.
Well said. And on that note, I think we need to take a break
Okay.
and give our listeners a chance to process all of this information.
Yeah. It's a lot to take in.
We've covered a lot of ground today,
We have.
and it's important to give everyone a chance to digest it all.
Yeah.
Okay, so Oh, welcome back. We've been like really deep into securenomics.
Yeah, it's a lot to process.
It really is like trying to put together a puzzle
Hmm.
where the pieces keep changing.
Yeah, it's complex.
So we've talked about the theory, the potential good stuff, the bad stuff.
Right.
But let's like bring it back down to earth. What does securenomics look like in action?
Well, it's still early days,
Okay.
but we can already see some examples of Reeves putting these ideas into practice.
Like what?
Remember that National Wealth Fund we talked about?
Yeah, that's 7.3 billion for green industry.
Exactly. That's securenomics in motion.
Okay, but is that really enough to make a difference?
It's a start. Remember, it's not just about the money.
Right.
It's about sending a signal.
To the markets.
Yeah, showing that the government is serious about investing in the future.
So it's like priming the pump.
Yeah, kind of.
Helping to attract private investment and create a ripple effect.
Exactly. And it's not just about green energy.
Hmm.
Reeves is also talking about investing in infrastructure, education, research, and development.
Right, all those things that are important for growth.
Exactly.
But let's be real. All this investment sounds great,
It does.
but it's going to cost a lot.
It will.
How does she plan to pay for it all?
That's the million-pound question.
Right, especially with taxes already so high.
But that's where things get tricky. Remember that $40 billion tax hike we talked about?
Yeah.
That shows Reeves is willing to make tough choices.
Even if they're not popular.
Even if they're not popular.
It's definitely a bold move.
It is.
But some people say that raising taxes now could actually hurt the economy.
There's always that risk.
Yeah.
But Reeves is betting that the long-term benefits will outweigh the short-term pain.
So it's a gamble.
It is a gamble, but one that she believes is necessary to build a more secure and prosperous future.
And it's not just about raising taxes, right?
Yeah.
She's also said she'll be watching government spending very closely.
Yes, making sure every pound is used wisely.
It's like she's walking a tightrope,
Yeah.
trying to reassure everyone that she's responsible,
Exactly.
that also committed to investing in the future.
It's a tough balancing act.
It really is, with
Yeah.
the whole world watching to see if she can pull it off.
And the stakes are high.
Yeah.
If securenomics works, it could be a model for other countries, a blueprint for a better global economy.
And if it fails.
It could set back progressive economics for years.
So what should we be looking for to see if it's working or not?
Well, obviously, economic growth is important.
Right.
But it's not just about GDP numbers.
Right.
We need to look at things like job creation, wage growth, productivity.
Right. Things that show how these policies are actually affecting people's lives.
Exactly. Making sure that the benefits of growth are shared widely.
Yeah, not just concentrated at the top. What else?
We need to look at inequality. Is the gap between the rich and the poor getting bigger or smaller? Are the benefits of growth reaching everyone?
And what about the environment?
That's crucial.
How do we know if securenomics is good for the planet?
We need to look at carbon emissions, renewable energy production investment in green technologies.
So it's not just about the economy.
No, it's not.
It's about society and the environment too.
Exactly. It's about looking at the whole picture.
Right, and seeing how these policies are affecting people and the planet.
Securenomics isn't just an economic theory. It's a vision for a better future.
Okay.
A future that's more secure, more equitable, more sustainable.
So we've covered a lot today. The theory, the practice, the potential good and bad of securenomics.
Yeah.
But before we go, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Go ahead.
As we've been talking, I keep thinking about how securenomics challenges the old way of thinking about economics.
In what way?
It's not just about numbers and spreadsheets.
Right.
It's about people, about values, about creating a world that works for everyone.
I completely agree. It's about recognizing that economics is a tool that we can use to shape our destiny.
And that's a powerful message.
It is.
Especially now.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that we have the power to create the future we want. A future that's more equitable, more sustainable.
Well said.
And who knows, maybe Rachel Reeves and securenomics will be the ones to make it happen.
Maybe.
Only time will tell.
It will.
But it's definitely going to be interesting to watch.
It will.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into securenomics and the historic chancellorship of Rachel Reeves.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you found it as thought-provoking as we did.
Keep those brains buzzing.
And we'll catch you on the next deep dive.